Hello, everyone, and welcome at What is Your Gift? This is a really cool podcast for you to be inspired by amazing people, amazing guests that are coming to you, sharing their story and hopefully inspire you. So today we have Renee Suszko. And Renee, she is a hypnotherapist in Central Otago. And she works with people on a growth journey. She helps them to manifest the life that they desire. And Renee delivers hypnosis in person, and she's also doing online. And she also provides a range of self-paced online hypnosis programs to help people to shift unhelpful beliefs, habits, attitudes, and more so they can have an amazing life that is waiting for them. Renee draws on her own connection to the universal consciousness, as well as the lessons of her own experiences to help people to make profound and lasting change in their life. She's also a certified yoga teacher and also an NLP, neuro-linguistic programming practitioner. So without any further ado, here is Renee.
Hi, Lily. How are you?
Good. Thank you for being with us today. That's really good.
I'm really honored that you thought to have me on this podcast. And I'm looking forward to speaking with you today and seeing where this conversation goes.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me maybe a little bit more about you, your background, and how you came to your gift or your passion.
Okay. That's a big question, right? That's like it's I could tell you my whole life story, or I could try to narrow down onto like single parts of that to communicate how I came to doing what I'm doing. So what level of detail would you like?
Well, maybe, it's all about inspiring people. So what brought you in your journey just before you really stepped into your own power and being, in helping people? What was the journey before? And
Okay. I think I'd like to take you back to almost 20 years ago. Well, 15-ish years ago. So like back to my late teens, early 20s. So back then I obviously, we've been through our teenage years and all sorts happens there, right? But I was sort of finding myself, had gone and done some study. I lived in Christchurch for a while, but other than that, I've always been in Otago, New Zealand. And I went through a period of anxiety and depression. So I went through like a challenging time for myself. And through that time, I learned a bunch of lessons, I guess you could say. And I feel like I trust that I went through that experience as an opportunity for me to discover what I'm really capable of. And it was really an illustration of like how I was showing up in the world, like it was lessons about self-care and understanding the effects of whether we're caring for our physical body, but also like on a mental level and on that sort of thought conscious managing what we're thinking and how we're perceiving level. Going through that time in my early 20s, I had the opportunity to put into practice some of the learnings I was getting through CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, and really just like going out into the world and showing myself that actually I'm manifesting the experiences, the way I'm perceiving the world based on my preconceived expectations of what's coming, right? So that might sound a little bit complicated, but really it was just like a couple of years of being deep in my own shit and then realizing my own power. And it was a really, really empowering process. Prior to that, I had already always been like interested in star signs, astrology, like dream interpretation, and reading books about the nature of the universe and questioning where we came from, even like as a child, and like I can remember being like 5 and like wondering whether whether other people saw things the same as I see. Do you see the color yellow the way I see the color yellow? I was already like so aware of like how I'm perceiving the world and whether other people's ability to perceive was the same as mine. So that's always been an undercurrent for me, right? But I'd say that time in my life when I was quite down, I was not just depressed, but I was socially anxious. So I was convinced that people were thinking about me. It really like my world had shrunk with that challenge through that time. And through various support from people in the places that I found myself in, I started to come out of that. And there was a stage there. So I want to take you to 2007. It had been over a year of me not working in any like specific full-time job because I wasn't able to hold that down through that time. And I had an invitation to go to America. So my father was going over there, and he invited myself and my brother and sister to go to America. And like on the path of like where things were heading for me, I was coming out, I was learning all of these lessons. I was coming out of this depressive episode. I was learning to like move beyond my anxiety. And it was an interesting invitation because I've had a challenging relationship with my father my whole life, right? And so this was an opportunity to sort of mend those bridges as well. My sister is a half sister and didn't grow up with us. So spending time with her for a few weeks over in America, it was just like, I can't say no to this opportunity, right? And I really just even felt like in the moment at that time, like this was a choice point. This was like a point in my life where things could carry on the way that they were, or that I could like step into a new version of myself. And I felt like going away somewhere completely different and coming back is like a massive opportunity for that, right? And so I can't remember specifically whether I'd already heard of the concept of the law of attraction before I went to America, or if it really dropped in for me while I was there. But just to keep this story concise, we went over to America. We were in LA. We did the childhood things that we were never given as children. We were pretty broke, so like being for dad to take us to Disneyland as adult children, like that was pretty epic. And doing things like that and traveling around California and San Diego and Las Vegas. But I can just remember one night, through a few days, we'd had some really challenging times with Dad. He's moody, he's quick to anger, he's got his own things that he's dealing with. And it was quite overwhelming for me. And then one night I couldn't really sleep and I was watching the TV, and there was an Oprah Winfrey show. It was a replay, like it was a current show, like it wasn't one from like years ago. And she was interviewing Rhonda Byrne, who had just released the book, The Secret. Oh. Right. So I'm sure you've heard of the book, The Secret, right? And I was like, I want to say blown away, but like I was like, this is stuff I'd already sort of figured out in my own life, and here's someone putting it in a book. Like it's like, well, all these other people have looked at this in this whole new light, and I was already sort of getting those little constellations were coming together for me. So it was like massive confirmation. It was like a big flag, like, look over here, this is for you to understand more of. Yeah. And even just from watching that one episode, so I wasn't even reading the book, but it had little clips from the movie and things. And the next day I just went and put those things into practice. And in my current reality, we're like removed from life, and all it is my family dynamic. And it's like, if I can change my expectations of what my interaction with my father is going to be like, am I going to manifest a different reality? Right. And lo and behold, when I exuded a positive expectation and attitude, and I just knew that he was going to have a good day too. And actually, whether he had a good day or not didn't matter, because I was in my power. Yes. What do you see? What happened? He was like amazingly good. It was like unheard of. We had this whole day, and I just remember, like, it was just a massive confirmation, like what I have suspected is real. This really works, right? And so I think that's where, yeah, my understanding of like some of these universal concepts that I had previous epiphanies on, and then that journey through anxiety and depression, and then this, yeah, I think it's just where it all sort of crystallized into something. And I really believe that the universe provides us with experiences for us to learn what we need to know so that we can step into our power, right? So it's not like you're just going to like sit there and cognitively sort of think like, how do I want to be in the world? And right, I'll go search out like the way to learn to do that. Like you can do that, but I feel like what's more powerful is like really just anchoring into what am I being shown? What is lighting me up? Like following that, like that energetic path of what's lighting you up, right?
That's right.
And yeah. And so like when we returned from that trip, I stepped into a new chapter of my own life, and I had a loving partner at home who I, came home to, and I went on to, start a new career that ended up lasting 10 years. I worked in the dairy industry, which doesn't sound super exciting, but so outside of this coaching journey, I also worked in an industry where I got a chance to step into other skills of mine, and I definitely used these powers, this ability to manifest like job opportunities, being promoted, like being given opportunities that I certainly wasn't like on paper qualified for, just showing, like when you can step into your own power and you like show up in a certain way, people can see what you're capable of and they just give you opportunities, right? Yeah. And then sorry.
No. It's really, I love what you're saying, because it's really our mindset that is blocking us. So when you step into this power of manifestation, you actually, create the job that you want. And so it's pretty cool to hear that. I love it, because it's always good to be reminded if we already know.
Yeah.
Very powerful. Thank you.
No, you're right. Yeah. Because a lot of people, that are probably listening to this know this on some level, they were experimented in their own life, but like we can all fall out of living in that knowing, because we're tricked into this like we're in this 3D world where like we feel like we've just got to like grind really hard and work hard toward our like our desires, and there is nothing wrong with putting a whole lot of effort into something you're passionate about, but it's not the only factor that's at play.
Yes. It's a good reminder for all of us. Again, thank you.
And just to bring you like from there to here, during that career, I was given wonderful opportunities to go and study. They invested in me, and I grew as a person. And toward the end of that time, I was away studying, and I had that partner that I mentioned. We were together for about 5 years, and I had this sort of call from the inside that I needed to go and explore. I needed to go, like that change was on the horizon, and I couldn't ignore it any longer. So quite rapidly, I jumped into moving on from being in that relationship. We'd built a house together, I built a house when I was 23, like we made things happen, and I moved on from that, and I wanted some freedom. I wanted to go and explore, and I'd learned I've got to follow this calling when it comes, even when it's scary. And so I stepped out on my own, and I went and did that, and within a few months I found myself pregnant to somebody else. And the universe had like thrown me in the deep end of a whole new chapter that I could not have known was coming. But knowing that, like being in the position I was by then at 26, successful, capable, I embraced what was coming and made that happen. And so I have a daughter now, Olivia, and she's 10, and she's like been a wonderful inspiration for this last decade. She's like, I think when we have children, they take our focus away from like just being about self to being about like somebody else needs me to show up for them, right? And I'm not saying that I was completely self-obsessed or self-focused through those years before that, but she certainly has like broadened my perspective of what being here can be all about, and influencing the others around us, and what we can do to help them live the lives that they want to live. And so toward the end of that career at Fonterra, they brought in an opportunity to facilitate a personal development program to the entire company. So they rolled it out nationwide. Back then there were like 6,000 people working for Fonterra. And the novel thing that they did is that with each site, they wanted people that were like people that worked there to learn this material and learn how to facilitate it to their peers, right? And this is another one of those things where this opportunity came along, and I'm like, by the time this opportunity came, I had a year off. So just to clarify, I'd had a year off while my daughter was born until she was 1. I went back to work. I had a child to provide for, and I was on my own again by then. And I'm like, how would I even fit that into my life? But I just kept getting called, like, you've got to go and do this. And so I was juggling shift work and a young child, and supported by some really good friends and my mother and things as well. But I, had to follow that call again, and I went and learned how to facilitate this program, and stepped into this role that I think I have tried on many faces of since, which is showing people what they're capable of, showing people that they get to choose how they show up in the world, showing people what the difference between being like pessimistic and optimistic, all of those, like, the nitty gritty of personal development was what this program was about. And so over a number of weeks, I trained to provide that training to my peers, and then over another number of weeks, alongside another colleague of mine, I facilitated that to over 100 people in my little corner of the organization. And one of the main things that came out of that experience was, well, really just the view that was far more rewarding than what I was doing in my role at that company. And so, not too long after that, I just became inspired to seek out further training in life coaching and personal development, and get ready to leave that role and go and be self-employed. And so this was back in 2015. Yeah. And so I jumped out of that 10-year career where they nurtured and really looked after me, but it was challenging. It was away from family. It's not really where I wanted my daughter to grow up. And I just knew that there was more that I was going to be able to bring to the world, and I had to back myself. So I jumped straight out of there and into being self-employed back in 2015.
But it's quite amazing that they offer this opportunity in this company. That's pretty amazing, though.
It is, right? So, like, what are the chances?
I know. So, again, you manifested somehow.
Yeah, that's it. So, like, I think, like, the universe has left breadcrumbs of little glimmering opportunities that I can take or not take, and maybe I haven't taken them all, but I don't feel like you only get this one chance. I feel like those things circle back around when the time is right, and when you are in alignment with that, you catch that wave and you're going with it.
Yeah. And so since 2015, you are a self-entrepreneur, is that right?
Not entirely. So I had a bit of a I had some lessons to go through to be like the full version of who I am now, right? Yeah, so I can share that story if you like.
Yeah, go for it. It's good, because it's good to see and hear where we are, because we all go through the steps. So it's so inspiring to hear that. So go for it.
Great. Yeah, because other people will be at different, various stages of a similar journey, maybe.
That's right.
Yeah. So by now I'd moved, like I had a house here in Central Otago. And I started this coaching sort of journey, and I was operating mainly online. So accessing, like connecting with people online, back then it was a little bit easier to find people through like Facebook, and like the algorithms were a whole lot different, right? So like you showed up in people's feeds quite easily. That rapidly changed. But I have always had this vision that like a lot of what I wanted to be able to offer, I wanted to be able to live rurally and reach globally. And even then, like right from the start, I was developing online programs. I was bringing people in to be in my like beta version of these programs, and trying to create content that meant that a person over here could have this transformational process away from me and then come back to me to have, you know, if we wanted to have that one-on-one time. It's like multiplying myself essentially. And so I was working hard at a lot of these things, and getting some really good results. But I also had ended up with a new partner through this time. And without going into too much detail, we went through a period where I let this man sort of undermine my own confidence and my own view in myself, right? And I went from like having this clear vision and no one could stop me to sort of like my worldview sort of like shrunk again, and I'm like, what am I doing? And you know, like when you're growing a business, there's times where like, you know, like finances might be a bit tight, or you're risking, you know, doing this and not doing that, and we can't go on this holiday because right now I'm, you know, making this happen. And that's right. And yeah, so but again, I feel like it was so powerful that I went through this time, you know. And so alongside that sort of me shrinking in my view about what I was capable of to offer other people, I was also like pursuing my other interests, which is around property development. So I've like bought and sold and renovated a few properties through my life, and I kind of really wanted like to buy another house, and to do that you need a bit more cash behind you than a small business that's just growing. And so I made the decision to sort of leave that behind for a while, and I went and worked full-time elsewhere. And I did that a couple of times through the next few years. I went and worked somewhere for a year or so, bought a house or a bit of land, did what I needed to do, made some money, backed myself again in self-employment, decided I wanted to do the property thing again. So I flip-flopped a bit. You know, we can question our power sometimes, and that's okay. And I think any of those little spirals I went through, circling back around to it, you know, I brought new skills and new experiences to what I was offering people. And so a few years ago, I was working for a renewable energy company locally. I was the manager of people and safety by then. So I had, you know, manifested again another quite a responsible sort of role, but it was really in alignment with my values, you know, like I was looking after health and safety and HR. So like, you know, keeping the people happy and safe in that renewable energy space. So again, it's sort of like met my values in different ways. But yeah, so toward the end of that, I had this inkling about learning about hypnotherapy for a long time, probably since that 2015. Like it had kind of come back around, like hypnotherapy is like the big piece of the puzzle that will help you communicate. It just fits in better with anything else that I was doing, because I think one of the main parts of that whole 2015 until you know I really stepped into hypnotherapy is I knew how I could help people make change, but I didn't trust that people wanted to hear about manifestation and the law of attraction. You know, I kind of left that out of my coaching. It was more about like the positive attitude and the, you know, like the way that you think, change, you know, like changing your thought patterns, and more sort of CBT like focus. And when I do this, I'm sort of talking about like in your head stuff instead of in your body and in your heart and in your like soul stuff, right? And so like I think that's the piece that I had to learn to like embrace. And through this whole time, it was like that theme of like showing up in my full power and knowing that I'm enough, you know. And so I think through that, you know, and there were other experiences that helped me get there, but I stepped into that and finally went and studied hypnotherapy, and I was like, oh my God, why did I not do this?
Like 10 years ago.
Yeah. And it's been like magic ever since. I think I've just, I hit my stride with how I can deliver like profound and lasting change for people. And whether the person specifically knows about or cares about all of the things I'm factoring in is sort of irrelevant. Like I've got this whole like, we've got layers in the background of like why we're inspired to like help a person see something from a different perspective, and that's going to help them make that lasting change. And they don't even need to know about the cogs working in the background, right? I just trust, I trust deeply that that the universe is going to only bring people to me that are going to get something out of what I have to offer, whether that's the whole session or if it's just one thing I say offhandedly as I'm saying goodbye, like that they came to meet me to get something, but that they're having their own journey and their own process, and it's not about me being the savior. It's just like, well, we can get that worry, right, when we're coaches, when we're helping people that are in a point where they're like experiencing struggle, like you could wear that burden, like I need to help this person, and if I don't, they might not be okay. And like that we I just trust that I'm one part of a larger puzzle, and that like all of these things are conspiring to help this person, and that what I'm offering is a part of that. And it's just so beautiful to see to see the power of hypnotherapy in action, right? So people can manifest the life of their dreams, right? So it's about like people come to me when they have that inkling like things could be better, or that they could do this thing, or they know that they no longer want to feel a certain way, and that's standing in the way. It's like it's in the way, it's this block or this this challenge that they need to move through so that they can create the life that they desire. And I just love helping people to be empowered to do that for themselves through their interaction with me. So yeah, sorry, I feel like I'm talking so much. Lily, you got some questions?
But that's great. Well, actually the question is to bounce back on what you just said, like what do you how do you bring together this power of manifestation and hypnotherapy? How do you bring that into your programs and with your clients?
Yeah, and I think it just started happening naturally initially. Like I think when I first started working with clients, I was like there's a process we learn in hypnotherapy, and there's like sort of like the concepts that we know and how it works. And I quickly was like aware that a lot of it already aligns with universal consciousness, right? When we help somebody access their subconscious mind, are we not potentially helping them access universal consciousness at the same time? Like, are they not maybe one and the same? Like when we get out of our thinking mind and we tap into intuition, is that really only just coming from our own thinking mind, or is that coming from like a broader source energy sort of place? And like either is fine, and whichever it is, it doesn't matter if it works. But like for me, it's like definitely source energy. And like when I say source energy, I'm talking about like the universe as a whole. So I think like my beliefs and understanding of the universe are maybe like a little bit hard to articulate in the answering of this question, but like if you can boil it down to like what the basics of law of attraction, that this person, like I say, has a sense that things could be better, and I can help them to see that in the positive tense. I think like I was describing now, just now, like how a person might not have the awareness that they are tending to think about what they don't want while they're trying to create what they do want. And that's like that's a pretty powerful key when we can just help people do that. We're like already getting them on that manifestation train, right? So if a person can turn away from describing the change in that negative language and into positive, like this is like even before hypnotherapy, like helping people do this was always like my wheelhouse. And I think where hypnosis really comes into its power is that when we're in hypnosis, we are experiencing something with all of the senses as if it's really happening, right? And this is an important tool or an important piece of manifestation, because when we want to be in positive expectation for an outcome that we're trying to move toward, we want that strong positive feeling. We want emotion attached to that. We don't want to just like write a list 10 times a day of like, I will make $1 million. I will make $1 million. Like you can say that to yourself all you want, but until you feel abundant, until you trust in like the infinite like supply of like whatever anybody needs in the universe, then that abundant feeling is not coursing through your body. And so the chance of you bringing that into your life are like, that's not impossible, but it's a lot less likely, right? And so hypnosis really helps a person anchor into that belief in a really tangible and profound way. And not just that, if a person's trying to create something in their life, we often have like you mentioned in the intro, that I help people work through like unresourceful beliefs, habits, attitudes. You know, like if we have a belief, whether we know it or not, that money doesn't grow on trees. I'm just using abundance as an example, but it's not my main wheelhouse. Like money is the root of all evil. We better like put away everything we have and only save it for a rainy day, because we don't know when we're going to get money next. Like we learn these through like our family, like the way we grew up, the type of the community we live in, not even just our immediate family, the community we live in, the people we look up to, whether that's like the teacher at school or a police officer or someone you like studied under for something else. You know, we download these beliefs and they're like locked in there in the subconscious. We don't even know we believe these things anymore. And you might think you want to be more wealthy, and you know that the law of attraction works, and you're trying to manifest this abundant lifestyle, but deep down you still believe that you can't spend your money because you might not get it anymore. Right. And when we have that energy of that belief, we can't vibrate at the same vibration of an abundant person. They're like miles apart. And so I think that what stands in the way of a lot of people trying to manifest their desires, whether it be abundance or better health in their own body, health outcomes for something they might be already experiencing, or it could just be as simple as like weight loss and strength and confidence, like all of these things. We have these like beliefs we're not aware of that are influencing us constantly in the background from the subconscious. And so if I can help a person identify these, we find that they're there, we can help this person like move through the belief. We might regress to where it first happened and give them some resolution there. We might just help them envision the future outcome as if that belief no longer happens, and then they can like embody this new state that they already want to step into, you know. And parts of them already want to get there. There's just that little part that's like, oh, but it's safer back here where we do what we always used to do, right? And so hypnosis is so powerful to help people make those shifts. And there might be just one thing that's sort of like the key that's standing in a person's way to move toward what they really want, or there might be several pieces depending on their experience, right? So I really love helping people get those insights and move through them. And the great thing is I don't ever want anyone to feel like they need anything outside of themselves to make change, and like so that I'm not necessarily the reason a person's like making this breakthrough, right? I'm just like providing the opportunity. Like they're coming to this, they're already on that journey, they're already figuring it out. That's why they've come to me, right? And then I'm providing this like place where that experience can occur.
Yeah, beautiful. And so you do also quite a lot online, and I know that a lot of people are a bit worried, especially when they say, oh, hypnotherapy, can it be done online? And maybe if you want to break down some of those limiting belief system that, you know, it can't be done online.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think like one of the main objections that even someone that's curious about hypnosis, whether in person or not, one of the main concerns people have is actually their only experience of the idea of hypnosis is stage hypnosis. Yeah. And they've seen like Paul McKenna up there, like convincing people that there are animals running around or that they're naked on stage and all that sort of stuff. And while that's in the larger wheelhouse of like hypnosis, there are like some like major factors as to why that's even possible on a TV show or on a stage show. And it's nothing like what hypnosis one-on-one with a hypnotherapist is like, right? So a person having hypnotherapy is going to hear everything that I say. They're going to remember it for the most part, unless they were completely not paying attention. They are, I can't make them do anything that goes against their own values. They're not going to reveal their secrets. That, you know, there's all these things that like they see on TV and they're like, oh, it's not safe, right? And so like just knowing that like all of that is aside, like they're safely listening to the sound of my voice. They are choosing. So like all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. That's like a key phrase I love to make sure everybody like, okay, let's drop into this. They're choosing to relax. They're choosing to listen to what I'm inviting them to see. They are in control, right? And so when we realize all of that, and you're like, oh, okay. So like whether I'm sitting across the room from Renee in a seat, or I'm like at home on a Zoom call like you and I are, that same thing can occur. And so the other issues that people might worry about over Zoom is like, you know, like, so my internet just dropped out now, and that's like rarely happens in a Zoom hypnosis call. But all that would happen for a person if the internet dropped out is that they would notice that they don't hear the sound of my voice, and within about a minute they would just like, you know, they would just wake up and go, huh, okay, Renee's gone. You know, like there's zero risk of being stuck in hypnosis. So that's, you know, that's another like of the major like concerns a person would have. I think like, especially in this day and age, we have really learned how to connect with the people we need to connect with through a long distance, like over a screen. Like maybe like 10 years ago, that would have been so like outside of the comfort zone of everybody taking part in Zoom calls that it was like, oh, I'm talking to this face on a screen and I don't feel like any connection. But like even
5 years ago, yeah, even before.
Yeah, 5 years ago. Like maybe did we even have Zoom calls 10 years ago? I don't know. But yeah, that ability to develop rapport and a genuine connection is absolutely there. And I think that's another place where my own belief system in the universe and like how connected we actually all are comes into play. And that while we might be physically separated, that I'm tapping into that person's journey, that person's energy, like where they are, wherever that is, you know, we are together energetically because there is no separation because we are all connected. Yeah. So yeah, I think that covers it off.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. And so before we go a little bit more onto what you are doing at the moment, what would you tell to someone who feel that they have a gift, but they just don't know where to start, or they have a fear of something? What would be the first thing that you would tell them to help them?
Okay. So like everybody has a gift, like everybody has more than one, right? But if someone senses that they have a gift, then they're already getting some evidence that they've got it, right? Because you're sensing it. And so if you're sensing it, it's a good sign that it's something worth pursuing. And that fear it's valid. Like we all have that little part of us that's looking out to make sure that we're safe, right? So it's like always looking for what might be wrong. It's all like on alert, looking for what might be wrong so that we don't like get hurt. It's a survival mode thing, right? And so that fear response is rooted there. It's just like, that's the unknown, right? We're stepping into the unknown. But I think maybe even just hearing like my explanation of my journey, you know, like that trusting stepping into the unknown might have some uncomfortable chapters, but it is where the growth is, and it's where that, you know, like if you can if you can just try on my belief that the universe is giving you opportunities to grow and learn and step into your power, that it's worth it. It's worth it. And so, yeah, just checking in with that fear around, what is this fear telling you? And do you have, your own subconscious beliefs, habits, expectations, attitudes that are like trying to like pull you away from what you're actually being guided towards? So it's easy for me to sit here and say feel the fear and do it anyway. But it's never that simple. But like, you can also just go easy on yourself, like, if you're in a state of feeling like that fear is like holding you back a little bit, then experiment in smaller ways or in different ways, or in ask the universe for a sign, like, just don't stop, just try it on. And like, one of the biggest things that I can, I was having this conversation yesterday with my brother on a completely different subject, but like about finding your passion. Mm-hmm. And it's like, when we're feeling a little stuck or not sure, but we sense there's something there for us, like, we need to go and experience contrast to figure out what we want and what we don't want. We need to go and have an experience, because contrast is how we discern. Contrast is how we make a judgment. Contrast is how we decide what's for us and what's not for us. And if we keep ourselves safe at home and never go and do anything, then we don't actually know. We need information. Like, if you're fearful about something, you need information to make a decision for or against that. And that's never going to come from like you just trying to think through the whole potential outcome in your own head. It comes from real life experience. So like, if that person is having some fear, like, what's like one small step where you can go and get a little bit of contrast to help you get some clarity on how you feel about taking that next step.
Oh, sounds good. I like that. I like this story of contrast. That makes sense. Yeah, because as long as you don't know, you can't figure it out if it's for you or not. So yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and similar. So if it's someone who thinks that I'm just, I want a change in my life, but I'm not sure on what I'm good at or what is my passion. I like that, but I like this too. And what would you tell them? What do you feel that would be helpful for them to step into their own power, even though they're not sure what it is yet?
Yeah, I love that question was like, what came up after what I just said, because essentially it's more of that and more, it's that curiosity, I think, is the word. So like, if you can have some curiosity and go out and invite that contrast, and like, maybe that key belief that we could work on to go and do that is like trusting that you're going to be okay regardless of what you experience, right? So like, that when negative things happen, we're like resilient, strong people that get good things out of any experience, right? And so I love that belief where, like, every experience is a learning opportunity. Right, and that takes away a little bit of that, like, I don't know whether I should do this or that, or like, taking those first steps, but inviting some contrast. So like, like, maybe you were reading a newsletter and there's a beekeeping course and you're like, oh, that'd be interesting, but that makes no sense. I've got like beekeeping has nothing to do with anything in my life, but like, you noticed that for a reason. Like, why not? Like, what would it be like to go and do this 1 week beekeeping course? Or like, go and surround yourself with interesting people that are interested in other things that you are curious about, like joining a club of people that are doing cheese making or pottery, or and that's where that contrast starts to come. We're in unfamiliar environments, and we're getting these opportunities to show up in new ways, and like, how am I going to work through this? And through those experiences, you get these little glimmers of like, I'm really good at this, or I really don't like these. I'm never doing that again. But you get some clarity, right? Clarity comes through the contrast. And you just like, it's impossible for that not to, if you use those ingredients, it's impossible for that not to snowball towards something that's really quite like tangible and profound and big and clear, right? So yeah, little
That's
steps,
so true.
contrast.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It really reminds me of a story like when before I started my own journey, I was doing exactly what you're saying, trying that. I was okay, so I want to try that. And then I was doing in writing what you would like and what you wouldn't like. And when I had this big list of what I wouldn't like, I was it's probably not for me. So I was stopping straight away. But that really helped me to, because I had like 10,000 ideas, and maybe it's what can be daunting for a lot of people. Like I want to do something different, but I'm not sure what. And so that's pretty cool to hear that. Yeah, just try. And
yeah. And another little piece of that, I guess, is like, even when you have an experience that was uncomfortable and you didn't like it, it's not about turning away from everything that was uncomfortable or that you didn't like. It's actually also just checking in and being like, why was I so like against that feeling? Why was I so uncomfortable here? Do I have a limiting belief or something in myself that I might want to do some work on so that I can do those things? Yes. You know, and that's part of that growth opportunity too. But again, you wouldn't experience or like even like, you know, like you wouldn't discover that that's a possibility if you didn't go and have that contrasting experience.
Yes, I love it. It's all about doing action and not being on your mind.
Because it's not just the action, it's how you feel in your body. And I think that's really important piece. It's like we get a little bit like there's like this dynamic of like understanding, like we can think things through or we can go and do stuff, but like there's a whole layer of like how we're feeling in our body when we do stuff, and having an awareness of that is only possible like when you actually go and experience something, or you're in hypnosis and you have like you have that subconscious experience and you get that feeling in your body, which is just, it's really key.
Yeah, cool, awesome, thank you. And during your journey, what did you enjoy listening to that inspired you, that helped you? I know that we touched base a little bit on some of the people you heard, like The Secret, but now what are you listening to or reading and that really inspiring you?
Along my journey, there's been a few authors or speakers that have like really resonated, and what I've loved is like, in my own experience anyway, is like I'll come to like this conclusion in my own head of how things might or in my own experience of how things might really be in the world. And then I'll pick up a book and it's like, here's a person that studied it and has evidence as to why this is real, you know. And it's like, oh, confirmation. And one of those is definitely Joe Dispenza. So I don't know if you're familiar with his work, Joe Dispenza. Of course you are. Yeah, I've actually got one of his books sitting right here. The Placebo.
Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah. So I've got 3 of his books, but that one there is like, I've handed that out to a lot of people to read, because that really, like, you know, it describes the power of our belief and how what we believe about our outcomes for ourselves really majorly determine what's going to happen. And a lot of those are centered around health, but I feel like that actually translates into all aspects of our life. So yeah, Joe Dispenza, read his stuff. Other than that, Wayne Dyer, he's no longer living, but some of his books are amazing. I've got a couple of those here. One that I found really interesting was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That was a book written back a long time ago, 60s. But he was talking about these same universal concepts back then, and he learned those all through studying and interviewing really successful people that were already employing these concepts even then. So like, it's sort of like that whole unknown layer to success that like a lot of people were either consciously or unconsciously putting into practice even back then. Eastern Body, Western Mind is a book about the energetics of the body, but it's talking about Eastern concepts, but helps us translate that into like our Western worldview. That's really good. And that was that sort of came into my awareness around the stage where I trained to be a yoga teacher. Yeah, so that's some of the books. And listening, if people want to explore like a kind of a little bit out there side of law of attraction, listening to the recordings of Abraham Hicks is amazing. I don't know if you listen to any of or have come across Abraham Hicks. So it's delivered by a woman called Esther. And if you can get past the weirdness of where her message is coming from and actually listen to what it's saying, it's really profound sort of learnings. Yeah, so like take that, you know, like anyone that listens to that stuff, if they're like, this is too weird, then it's just not for you. It's all good. And then podcasts, I guess podcasts are the current sort of way that I'm taking in that that sort of information now in real time. And even not even just around law of attraction or hypnotherapy or personal development, but really about like self-growth and empowering beliefs and stepping into our capabilities. Like there's just so many podcasts out there, and I've actually given you a list so you can pop them in your description of the video. But like, you know, if you've ever got time where you're driving somewhere for an hour or you're in the garden and you're just doing something that doesn't require any like too much thought, then like popping these in your ears and listening to these empowering people is so powerful. And you know, like we've all heard that saying that we become the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with, right? So I don't know if you've heard that saying, but like, okay, so if that was true, if we do become the average of the 5 people we spend the most time around, you know, so you could stop and think now, who are these 5 people that influence me the most at the moment? And am I sort of like somewhere in the middle with some of my outcomes in life? You probably are, right? And so like, I feel like listening to these podcasts of these people that are like either doing amazing things or looking at the world in like inspiring ways and feeling empowered, then I'm like adding a big weight to like that being possible for me too, because I guess trying to surround myself with people like that living in a small rural community is not that easy. And while I've got some like epic people in my life, this just adds to that in a really positive way. So yeah.
Yes, it really helps to transform. Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. And now tell us what you are doing or what you are about to do, if you have any plans. I know that you have a challenge that you're running. Any new things that you want to share to people.
Oh, great. Yeah, happy to. I'm going to give you a bunch of links to share for this stuff too, I think, because, you know, being an online presence, people need to be able to find me by clicking a button, right? So, yeah, one of the exciting things that I've got happening at the moment is I've released a free 5-day challenge, and it's a 5-day manifestation challenge. It's fun, it's easy. It's only a few minutes a day that you have to listen to me speak in a video, and I released that maybe 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, and so you can step in at any time. It's still available at the moment, and people are really having some interesting results out of that. So it's like it's a way for people to reignite their trust in the universe, that the universe is going to provide what they expect, and we can play with those, like some of the basics of those universal concepts, so that we can prove to ourselves that what we want is out there, and that if we like believe it's going to be there and we remember to look for it, it's showing up in all sorts of ways, right? And so we start really small to begin with, and we sort of build through the challenge, and you might come out of that with that, like, you know, reinvigorated trust in the universe. And so that's absolutely free. All that people have to do is like click a link, let me know that they want to take part, and they will receive access to that. And that's delivered through my website. So just each day, the next day of the challenge opens up, and then they can take part in that through the 5 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's there now, and that's free for anybody to take part in if they're interested. And then the next thing I've got coming up is I'm about to release another series. So it's a series that people can access online. It's a self-paced series. It goes over 6 weeks. So this is a bigger beast, but it's really about making some profound shifts in something that's really important to a lot of the women, particularly, that I help. And so the program is called BodyMind. And it's funny because your business actually has the same words in it. So I'm sorry, didn't mean to do that.
No, that makes sense. BodyMind.
Yeah. It's kind of like, an obvious sort of beautiful combination of those two words. And so you can probably imagine what it might be about, but really the development of this series came about. I first delivered it online live to a group of women, so they were in the various parts of the country. They were all in New Zealand. Yes, they were all in New Zealand. And so I delivered that live over 6 weeks. And after delivering that program, I decided that it would be really great to make that available to a whole lot more people. But the challenge that busy women have is people need things from us at all sorts of different times of the day. So being available at 8 o'clock at night on a Wednesday consistently is not necessarily that easy. And so the way that this is delivered now is self-paced, which means there's still weekly content to work through. You do it in your own time. If you want to sit with something we went through 1 week for a little bit longer, you can do that. If you want to listen back and take part in another hypnosis again, you can do that. And so it's a series of hypnosis experiences. And the theme that we're covering is this is for people that would really like to step into loving and honoring their own body. So building that positive relationship with your body, working around your relationship with food. So it's not necessarily about weight loss, but weight loss is, if someone's on a weight loss journey, this is a massive help in the foundation. So it's really foundational. It tackles, your relationship with your body, your relationship with food, stepping into feeling fit, healthy, confident, strong, so that you can pursue what you can step into who you can be as a healthy person that is making good choices for themselves. The way that the program works is that some people will take part in this and then they might want to work with me one-on-one for the specific experiences that they might want to work through, or beliefs or challenges that are individual to them. But this is a foundation that and again, a lot of the stuff that I describe, you take what's for you and you leave the rest, right? But it's it's foundational around those concepts. And so over that 6 weeks, a person will come out of that with potentially and hopefully stepping into that vision of themselves for the future, with that making consistent effort toward the intention that they have for themselves, but loving their body on the way to wherever it is that they're going. Not being one day when I'm 69 kilos and I have 20% muscle mass or whatever those numbers are, then I'll be happy. It's sort of we want to love ourselves right through whatever part of the journey we're on. But it's still okay to have those goals. So it's foundational stuff. And so the women that have already been through it have had some wonderful feedback around what they experienced. And I'm looking forward to, releasing this self-paced journey. And there'll be 3 tiers. So it'll be going through the journey standalone, or grabbing a package where there is, I hold a support container for that person with a few one-on-one sessions over a period of time, and then the third part of the package is a slightly longer container with a few more sessions and a bit more ability for that person to contact me, while they go through this process and work toward their individual intentions for themselves. So
so all that will be on your website when you will launch it?
It won't necessarily be on the website. So when I launch it, I will launch it to my list. So I'll launch it to people that are that have found me. And then it's going to be released periodically. So it's not always going to be available. And there's a reason for that. I only have so much time that I can give to people in those containers. And it's an offering that feels aligned right now. So now is when it's going out. So when that releases, there'll be a couple of months where a person can make that commitment to themselves that they're going to do that. And then I will carry people through that. And then I will decide from there about whether this ever gets released again, or but this is really the opportunity for someone to step into it now at this price point as well. So it's likely if I do re-release in 6 months time, that it will be a little bit of a jump up.
Yeah. So, okay. So if some people are interested, how can they, find the information? Like, do you have like a mailing list, or do you do social media? How do they can find you?
Yeah, people can find me on Instagram. So I'm at thrive_hypnotherapy. So hopefully you can link that below this. I do have a mailing list that I will contact people on, but also I'll provide you with a specific link where people can show me some interest. If they're interested in hearing more about this series, they can just throw their name and email address in there, and they'll be the first to hear about when it drops, and they'll get that pre-release price opportunity by clicking that link. And it's a little bit difficult to articulate, but because in the world of offering things online, I'm going to have to use a whole lot of targeted advertising to reach people in America and in Canada and Australia that want to do this, and that will be the main way that new people will hear about my offerings. The people here in New Zealand that are already like in my wheelhouse and in my sphere can hear about it right now and find that program through those links. So
beautiful. Yay. That's fantastic. Well, you've got a few things aligned.
Yeah, it's really if I go back to like what I was describing back in 2015, where I was building these programs and reaching out to people, but going through my own like authenticity challenges and like, who am I to do this, and it's so nice to like have really stepped into my power and be offering these things that are making, people are having profound changes. And I'm like so inspired. I have like a list of like 10 things I want to create, right? But I'm making sure that I put all of my heart into one thing and deliver it to people and really get those results for them before I create the next thing. And that's another reason why these things are not available like indefinitely. It's like, grab it while I'm putting my heart into it. Yes.
That's fantastic. Going with the flow.
Yes, absolutely.
Is there anything else you would like to add that we haven't talked about, and you feel that's a call from your heart?
I've really enjoyed what we've talked about, and I feel like I just appreciate that you've given me this platform to like just roll with whatever I was coming up with. Like I think I mentioned to you before we started recording, I didn't want to over prepare what I was going to say and what part of my journey I was going to share. And it's really nice to have this opportunity to connect with people, and I hope that anyone that's been listening and is like a little bit inspired to go and experience some contrast or go and do some or whatever else, then to do that. And that if they come across those limiting beliefs of their own, and they want to explore like working through them with me one-on-one, that there is I'll share a link for people to just be able to reach out, and through my social media, through Instagram is the best way to do that too. I'm excited for what whatever's next. We're just rolling along, following that flow, following that wave. So I don't know if there's anything else specific that I desperately needed to share today. We'll leave it at that, I guess, and maybe in 6 months' time, when I've done all sorts of new stuff, we could talk again.
Right, that's right. Yeah, it's always going to evolve for sure.
Mm.
Well, thank you so much for sharing some of your stories and inspiring people. I know that some of your story will resonate with quite a lot of people. Like a few things that you shared is like, oh yeah, that was me. So yeah, it's always good to hear. Because it's what we need. I think listening to some stories really help us to say, oh, okay, I'm not the only one feeling that way, so I can do it. So.
That's right. Yeah. And if you're not surrounded by people doing similar things, it can feel like a little bit of a lonely journey. And it's also a little bit difficult to maintain momentum toward these things that we're inspired towards if we don't keep getting that feedback that it's, that we're on the right path. And so, like, surrounding ourselves by people doing interesting things and finding that inspiration is like priceless. So
Yeah.
well,
Well,
made a difference like that to one person, then that's awesome.
yeah, and listening to some authors and podcasts, I think that helps, especially when we don't have the people, the environment that is supportive. I think, as you were saying, those 5 people in your life, if you keep listening to the same thing, it will really help to shift faster, I would say. So, yeah, that's quite
absolutely
cool. Well, thank you so much for spending this time with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and so everything is in the comments, in the link, and have a beautiful day, everyone, and thank you again, Renee. Bye.
Bye.